It's the December 4th meeting of the Central City Planning Commission. Introduce our members. We have to my right, Ms. Burzak, Ms. Porter, Mr. Smith, Mr. Everett, to my left, Ms. Rice, Mr. York, Mr. Miller, and I'm Patsy Hartzell. First item on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from our November meeting. Start off just in the interest of time. I've got a couple, I guess it's page 3, near the bottom, second paragraph. I think we need a noun there. I think that's supposed to say Chair Hartzell stated there seems to be consensus. The ADU cannot be used for short-term rentals and home occupation uses. Packet page 5. It would be the fourth full paragraph. Chair Hartzell stated they received a document prepared by Cornerstone Alliance referencing 900 dwelling units are needed. And it should read, and asked if it is a mandate or a guideline. And asked if it is. And then mandate or guideline is correct. Packet page 6. Third full paragraph. I don't know exactly what may have been said, but I know I didn't use the word infill. So I think Chair Hartzell stated the most development taking place is redevelopment. That's accurate of existing buildings. I have no idea what the other is meant to be, but I am satisfied with place is redevelopment of existing buildings. And that is all that I had for additions or corrections minutes. Ms.
I have
Burzak.
some. Packet page 3. 6th paragraph from the top. Ms. Burzak stated California. Maybe California does, but I stated Portland, Oregon. So if we could switch that, and then packet page 6. 1, 2, 3. 5th paragraph down. I'm not even sure what that means. Ms. Burzak stated she does not believe the ADU should be larger than 600 square feet. I think I said 600 to 800, and then the unit should be able to be rented long-term to anyone. It will be difficult for staff to enforce regulation regarding individuals residing the unit. I thought I said something more along the lines that I felt that it should that these are made to be rental long-term, and that enforcement, if people are getting around it and trying to do 30-day, will be hard to regulate or something of that nature, or we just take this whole paragraph out since I can't remember exactly what I said. Because
Well-
it doesn't make sense the way it's worded right now.
Oh,
I didn't think.
I thought it did.
I didn't.
I
put a
think if
question-
you
I didn't
add-
even understand what it
Because I
meant.
remember what you said. I remember the 600
Yeah,
should be read long-term and that you supported as long-term. I remember that. Difficult for staff to enforce. You did mention enforcement regulations regarding individuals residing. I think you said residing within the unit. In other words, counting the number of people that they have. We were talking about you're only supposed to have so many occupants and and so residing within the unit.
okay, that
Makes
makes more
sense.
sense. Yeah, and then let's see. I think that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Ms. Burzak. Any objections so far to any of the proposed additions or corrections from any members of the planning commission? Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes?
On the
Mr. Miller?
call to order, I was absent, and on packet page 7 in the motion box, I was also absent. But here in spirit. Yes, I was thinking of you,
No,
but
no question. We could.
you didn't
we
hear
missed Feel that.
you didn't hear my aye, but
We felt your presence. All right, duly noted. Any objection to those proposed? That's kind of an important one. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other additions or corrections? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected here today?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Yurick moves. Do I have support for his motion? Ms. Rice supports the motion. Any further discussion of the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes are adopted as corrected here today. All right, next item on the agenda. New business, public hearing regarding section 3.15 temporary buildings and structures. Mr. Patel, is the, yes.
Mr. Patel just called me, he's on his way for the beside me.
All right, let's go on. We'll just address the next item under new business. Anyone have any objection to jumping to items, subparagraph B there? We'll go on to section 3B on the agenda, figure 2A yards, definition of yard, rear and table 5.1 requested changes. Kristen, why don't you summarize for us what you found? You found a discrepancy in some of the work we had done some months ago, or something came up, and what you found and what needs to be done.
Who did the definitions of the different lot lines, so as background information along with lot type. However, when you look at the definitions for yards, and yards is the area between the house and a lot line, it's not a building setback, it's the open space area typically. The term for rear lot line on page 20, it says, we added new language there because the definition of a through lot has two front yards, or has a front yard and a rear yard. And the drawings showed it as two front yards, so we added language under the term yard rear to make it clear that in the case of a through lot, the rear yard is opposite the front yard, however, it is subject to the front building setback. As brought to my attention, we have a problem with the exhibits that are there. Particularly the one on page 23, which is what is on page 21, but it should be on what's on page 22. So we'll have to bring that back again.
Okay, go, yeah, you lost me there. Which one is the proposed change?
It's not in here. I don't know what. We're changing what's on page 22. So where it shows shaded for the through lots, which are the top parcel and then the 3 to the southerly portion of it between streets, those are all considered through lots. So it shouldn't be that gray area. It should be a crack white with the crosshair, with the diagonal line showing it being a rear yard.
So all the shaded gray areas on packet page 22, at the top, figure 2.8A continued. All the images of what I'll call the first 4 lots. Everything that is shaded gray should be cross-striped diagonally, side or rear instead.
Unless it's like a true front yard. So like the third parcel down, the third and fourth one house faces the street on the left. The other house faces a street on the right, where it's gray, like in the backyard where there's no driveway. That should be white with a line through it. Similar to the parcel to the north.
Chris, I'm confused. The
Yeah.
very first parcel, what should that be?
That one should be, the line should extend, the yard line should, the rear yard extends where it shows rear yard, but it should go all the way to the lot lines.
The lot line on both sides.
Yeah.
So let's say north is up. So and then, it should extend east and west, all the way across the back of the house.
So run.
Yep,
And so it should all be white cross-hatched
yep,
to indicate side or rear.
side or rear. And then what's the next?
The two middle lot, the two lots that are your typical lot, the frontage on one street, those two are fine.
Those two are fine, okay,
The
and,
next lot
mhm,
that has frontage on the west side,
yep,
where it's all gray behind the garage door, where you would think the garage door is, that should be all white with the
Oh.
diagonal line.
okay.
So,
And then-
Just behind the garage,
Yes.
not the entire shaded
The
gray
whole-
area.
The whole backyard.
Yeah,
Okay. That's what I thought you
What
said.
what we would all consider the backyard. The next parcel, which faces the road on the east to the right, is everything in the backyard
Right.
should be white with the line through it.
That makes sense.
Any change to the last one?
Yeah. And then the last one, because the house faces the street on the left, everything behind it going towards that easterly road, that should be white with a line, diagonal line through it.
Okay, I'm talking about 1, 2, 3, the fifth one down from the top of the page. Is that the one you're referencing?
Yes, like it has it's on 3 streets.
Okay, and again, which part of that should be changed?
The parcel, the area to the right.
That
right
all,
of the house.
all right, that should be striped. My question was, this is a proposed change, perhaps not the drawings, although I think it would be considered, and council chime in on, that's a modification to the ordinance, yes? This was not here as a public hearing, so is this just discussion, awaiting this to be returned to us? Okay. All right, anybody have questions for staff about what they're asking to do, the corrections or clarification staff? This is staff generated, I assume, that the staff found this and they're the ones that are bringing this to us for this clarification.
Sanderson brought it forward.
So where does this occur in the city? Because I'm visually having trouble figuring this out. Is it the alleys kind of behind, but they're not alleys, they're really streets? Is that where this occurs? And so all those houses down there behind Lions Park, closer to the railroad tracks, those are through lots, all of them.
Not all. There are a couple that are split from the back,
Okay,
First Street.
okay. Okay,
The interpretation of Highland has been that it's an alley. I believe they'll.
Same with
petition
Vine.
For,
yeah,
for citizenship.
okay. All right, thank you.
Other questions for staff? Or other planning commissioner comments about what they're asking, the changes they're asking for?
I have a question on the fifth parcel to the south. The house is facing west, east,
Facing
west.
Where
West,
the driveway is, that would be like.
Okay, so the side yard is what's hashed now. And the rear would be everything behind
To the right.
yep.
to the right of it. Okay.
So how, I guess, I'm trying to figure out how the through lot, if basically everything behind is. Okay. So the backyard on some of these were listed as a front secondary, right? Is that what, no, they were just listed as a front yard on both sides.
Why don't we crystallize for us how the issue came up that
Yeah,
brought,
I'm
and maybe that'll
confused.
help us understand what brought this to the attention and why, and maybe that'll help us visualize it. No, you can do it.
I just heard from Mr. Sanderson that we were reading the ordinance wrong. I don't know what he was doing his research.
Well, I don't care about that part, but okay, so then you took a look at it and,
Then, yes,
All right.
Lori and I looked at it and
I think there was some confusion between yards and setbacks, and so the pictures weren't depicting the yard correctly. It was, depicting a setback, which wasn't what that was supposed to be showing.
But I think staff was interpreting, because I live down there and I got a permit and they considered fine behind me a backyard. So I think staff, even though this wasn't, the graphics weren't correct, staff was correctly saying, this is your backyard, you need a 30-foot setback. So I think it was just a matter of graphics were off, but
Right.
staff was still interpreting correctly when they were giving out permitting.
so Kristen, then what is you need from us, since it's not the public hearing, we're not, what do you need from us today other than the review, then have this set for a public hearing? Do you need anything?
Well, with the changes and we'll make sure the exhibit is correct. Have a public hearing in your January.
Any other comments or discussion about that for staff? Anyone have any issues or questions about it? Staff, I'm sorry, Ms. Council.
The table, 5-1, there was often a meeting.
I don't have, 24 is where ours ends. Well, I wondered about why that was there because I couldn't find anything on
Yeah.
the table that was attached that had anything
I
to,
thought it was just mine that I didn't get it.
no, none of.
Oh, yes, listen, 26, on page 7.
So the footnote 11 is on the third column from the right.
Well, we don't have it yet.
Yeah, well, you have this part, right?
Right, can we just, she's just making
No,
copies
there's
for us.
another page on the back. So the footnote falls under the third column from the right. Where it says minimum rear setback and heavy left, so.
Okay.
Thank you, council. This will probably allow us to make more sense out of this.
Yeah, these lot lines always. confuse me.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so that one is,
Oh,
that's this one. Can I look at smaller?
Yeah.
the addition is the underlying number 11, correct? Does that open up any additional questions for staff?
Yeah.
Ms. Burzak?
So in the case of a through lot, so if on packet page. The one that we were editing, 22. So if all of those in the middle are through lots. And we just diagonalized them as if they're rear in the back. On the opposite side, it says, in the case of a through lot, a front building setback applies to all lot lines abutting a street. So if that's the case, if the front yard, so then if that's correct, if these are through lots, then that wouldn't be a rear because,
It's the difference between a yard and a setback.
so the setback, so you're saying from a terms of building, if you have a through lot, from the terms of adding on, you have 2 front yards. So if your front yard setback where you live is 15 feet, you're,
You have 2 front setbacks.
Setbacks,
You
not
have one
yards.
front yard.
But-
So if you want to build an accessory structure, it has to be in your rear yard.
but if you have 2 front setbacks, that means you're not building an accessory structure.
No, you can.
No, you can.
Yeah, you just have to comply with the
You just
setback.
have
Front
to comply
setback.
with a front
Okay.
setback.
Huh,
It can be back there. It just has to follow
Follow
the rules of front
of the
setback.
front
Have
setback.
a larger building setback, if you're a through lot, because an accessory structure can be 5 feet off the rear lot line or a foot off the alley. So in an R1E district, your detached garage would need to be 10 feet from the rear lot line, outside of the required 10-foot front building setback.
okay, so. I'm going back to that permit that I obtained and I was told that my rear was 30 feet. Yeah,
But that was one they gave you. Okay, so
doesn't matter, it's done now, but
you ride your bike a lot. then
Yeah.
Down by Lion Park Drive.
yeah,
Okay. So when you're on Highland or Vine,
yep,
that are technically streets,
yep,
okay? In the past, we treated it like an alley,
right,
okay? So the difference would be that if you, with you, you have a rear yard. Okay, you face Lions Park Drive,
Yeah,
and then you go up to Vine, right?
Right.
That is behind.
yeah,
So you have a rear yard, okay? But what you built wasn't a detached structure,
okay,
okay? It was attached to your house. So you still needed a 30-foot rear yard. But the setback, if you wanted to build something now, would be the same as your front. It will be 10 feet, not 5.
okay,
Are you with me?
kinda. All right,
Other questions or comments?
One more
Mr. Yurick.
Go back up to parcel number 1 on here, the top one. Why is there no side lots, side portions? It's similar to the last one, is how I'm looking at it.
It's where the driveway configured, where the front door is.
Okay, that's the front, I get, that's north on here. So why are there no side lots? All it is front.
I drew mine differently.
Lori wrote up some more on it.
Did I draw it
I
wrong or
don't know.
something?
I drove.
No, you didn't. She told us to take the line extending east to west and back the
Yeah, so
house.
why are there no side lots?
And I think maybe it should be north farther. I don't know. That's the clarification. No, I think that's
seems like it should go up to the
To
front
the-
of the house.
exactly. That's why
on
we're,
Each side.
or find out, explain why it doesn't.
I think that's right. It would extend up further.
To the
Yes.
front of the house.
Yes.
Are they north? Are they north?
Because this depicts exactly my house.
So do you always consider the driveway the front of the house? Because a lot of
No.
houses go in the back. Okay. It's the address.
No, just a moment, please.
No problem.
The address.
Go ahead, Ms. Burzak. I'm sorry. Did you finish that thought?
So, well, because they said, well, that on that corner one, when you were asking that the front of the house is where the driveway is, but a lot of people go in the back of the house with the driveway down where we live. So it's not always, it's based on the address, correct? Okay. So it's not actually the drive is the front, it's the address is the front.
Is it the driver or is it the house? Front of the house
Wherever your address is your front.
is your front. That makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
So that
No,
needs to be
that
altered in
helps
that
a little.
regard too.
There's my-
Yes,
But on that top one should, since it's a corner lot and there's houses fronting on both of those streets, are those not secondary front yards?
I would,
Yeah, this confusing.
but there's no house next to it.
So it's considered relaxed.
No. Oh, yeah. Front secondary, right?
Mine's different?
So really, it's front secondary on both sides
Correct.
and only rear in the back. Right behind. Yeah,
that could be, that makes some sense
that makes sense.
for now. Somebody asked
There's
another
one.
question and apparently it might not. All right.
So for Tony's question about his house configuration, which is like the one on the top. I don't believe that's a road on the east north side of your house. I think that's private driveway getting back to the park.
Yeah.
Do you think that's okay? That might be.
I don't know if it's a public street or not.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh.
the access part of that.
No, it's a street because my
No.
neighbor has an address
Yeah,
on
he
that
has an
street.
address. Yeah, a neighbor. How confusing.
So if it's a street, then what happens here?
What's the street?
Along the north,
No, well, no,
going east to west along,
Sides.
on the west,
you're on the west, you're talking about the west?
it depends on actually or on this picture, on this.
But
on
you don't
this-
have roads on 3 sides, you have roads on 2 sides of
I
your
have
house.
3.
You have
There's
3?
3, yeah. They're all streets. They all have addresses.
Oh, yeah, because you have a neighbor and then the other side.
Along
Oh,
the
yeah,
river
yeah.
is all addresses.
Mm.
So what is staff then depicting in the first one? I mean, seems to be consistent as to how, under what you're proposing to do, how does this drawing then change in totality?
Secondary.
Trudy, any help there?
I'm sorry, I didn't. hear.
Okay. Try this again. Diagram number one. Now, I've never been to your house, Mr. Urick, so I have no idea what you're dealing with, but it seems to me. So I'm gonna just go by the diagram since that's gonna apply to the entire city. It sounds to me we've got 3 streets. That's what's depicted here is 3 streets. Configured in that fashion. What is the proposed change to that diagram to be consistent with the changes being requested? What is it, at the end of the day, going to look like that you're gonna bring back to us? That's what we're trying to.
Well, when we did Mr. Derek's house for your, deck in the back and what you did in the, it was as depicted without, as it was drawn here. That you had a front on North Pier. You have a front on Discornia. You had the front going on, Midwestern.
Okay,
So this is a change.
so this would be, yeah.
Secondary front, right?
Yeah. That,
You mentioned corner lot, and it was trying to find it, but the definition of corner lot says that if a lot of us 3 or more streets shall be considered a through lot for purposes of this ordinance, so that's why it's not.
Right.
Okay.
and when we get back, like for the public hearing, that first diagram, will that be as we previously discussed, crosshatched up to the front of the house?
Yes, which is like again, we're talking about yards.
Right, the back, well, it'll be side or rear. And then the side, what I'll call front secondary will be the center section. If you divide that
Yeah.
into thirds, that it'll be complete cross-hatching in the center, the middle section, the back section, rear section will be the single crosshatch, correct? Okay, that's what we said before. So what's wrong with somebody tell me what is it going to look like when we get it handed in January?
Oh, it's confusing. I've always been confused by this.
Well, I was with everything until this one. Kristen, what are we looking for here?
I would say you would extend, so for the top parcel, at the far northwest corner of the house, you would extend the line straight across, and anything south of that line would be a rear yard. And then
Oh,
because the
yes.
house is irregularly shaped, you would go down at the northeast corner, extend the line across, and that would be your rear yard also.
Side rear, not front secondary.
No, no front secondary because of the definition of lot or corner lot.
Corner lot, because of,
So there will be no front secondary on that diagram.
I just missed.
Okay.
All right, so it's side rear.
Yep. Okay.
Does that not defeat the purpose of the ordinance? I mean, you've got houses that are fronting on that street, now all of a sudden I can put my detached garage
Mhm.
closer to the street in my side yard. I contend that I agree you're drawing the lines in the right spot, but I contend that those are secondary front yards to maintain the integrity of the idea of a secondary front yard.
And the height of the fence, remember, will be
Mhm.
determined by the law.
does that negatively impact what you're attempting to do with regard to the through lots? How do we deal with that? Because this has been designated as a through lot, but what does that do in terms of what you're trying to accomplish with the change in the ordinance on the through lots? If approached in that fashion. Anyone?
So on those, I guess to Sean's point, there's still going to be a front open setback, where those side or rear yard would be. So what may be allowed is different, but the setback would still follow along like a secondary front yard. It's just what would possibly be allowed within that space.
Right, yeah, I guess fences would be the biggest.
Yeah.
Biggest issue with that, because you're right, your garage would. In that, with the footnote 11, that garage can't be in that setback. So that eliminates that concern, but to Trudy's point, fences would still be a potential.
Front.
Because the front yard height would apply.
Yeah, which is,
No,
No, the side yard.
the side yard, you
Oh,
can
the
have
six-
the
the 6 foot.
6 foot
You can't have a
fence
6 foot fence.
next to my neighbor's house that has a 30-foot setback, and I can run my fence all the way out to the,
So when they look out, they're looking.
at the side of my, fence.
Well, they should have bought somewhere else. Well, again, well, no, that makes sense to me. The question only would be, Kirsten, would be if does that necessitate in order to do this, that we do something minor, but here on the fence ordinance, do we want to do that to avoid, I mean, should that be done at the same time or are people satisfied with that? Because that seems to be the biggest impact might be on the fencing. I think you're right on that.
I mean, that's when we can, the fence ordinance regulations, we can bring back to you, or I should say, staff will bring back to you, because I won't be here anymore in January. That won't require a public hearing before this board, but you can see how the language was changed to address the concern.
Mhm.
And you can suggest the city commission make that change then as part of the changes for yard. Or for through lots.
Well, we can request if staff feels that by doing the work we were talking about here today primarily, hang on a second, Trudy. If you feel at that time, as that comes to us in ordinance form and drawing form, that this city would believe that we should take a look or do something to the fence ordinance, they can just you can put it on the agenda for us, can you not?
Actually, I'm the one that reviews most of the fences and plant. And since we changed to front and secondary front, we have not had any problems. Okay, the fences, people are fine. We kept the clear vision. The problem is your neighbor that's around the side shouldn't have to look out their front door and see a 6-foot fence,
Mhm.
you know, going around where they can't see when they back out, different problems, okay? So, I think Jack brought it up, and Jack, what was your concern? Was it fences? I don't think fences was your concern when you brought this up.
No, it's a setback. It's in the proposition of 2 front yards.
Mhm. So really, that's all we're trying to accomplish.
I understand, Trudy. I guess I didn't say it very well. My point is, if staff determines that something needs to be adjusted for whatever reason on the fence ordinance, you can bring it to us. We don't have to ask you to do it and then bring it back. Can't you just add that to the agenda if you feel that should be looked at? If staff, when this all gets done, is there a belief or a recommendation? If you don't feel it's necessary, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, I mean, if the intent is to have a fence, in this case, not be 6 feet tall, and that what would otherwise be a secondary front yard, we have to modify the fence ordinance, and we can bring that back, that's a concern that's been noted today, so we can certainly address that, bring that. Draft language.
Other thoughts, questions for staff on this issue? All right, that's what you need from us today on this issue, Kristen? Okay. All right, well, that will be on the agenda then in January. Are we now ready to go to the public hearing, or is our applicant here?
Yeah, he's here.
All right, next item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding section 3.15 temporary buildings and structures. We have a public hearing scheduled on this. I will open the public hearing. The applicant here, come forward please to the podium. Tell us who you are and what you're asking us to do here today, if you would, please.
So I'm Jay Patel and I represent the Lake House Restaurant. That's our hospitality. What we pretty much proposing is to have a temporary structure in the front yard to do some events and bring some more, utilize the property.
Yeah, we need you to speak up nice and clearly and
Okay,
got that.
So-
That's better.
pretty much utilize the front area for the more of hospitality purpose to do some events for the weddings or, any parties or anything. Since we got the hotel and the restaurant, I think the front area, which is a beautiful location, is been underutilized and we see a potential of bringing a more customer and increase the revenue for the business. So we just requesting for that a concrete block which is there to have a temporary structure to do some events.
All right, we were provided with your application and your proposal and some comments from staff. Kristen, that's been a non-conforming use there for some time, correct? I shouldn't use the word. There was really no provision for that under our ordinance as it currently exists, correct?
I've been working with the previous owner to get that.
Okay, so it was not allowed, the reason it wasn't allowed on our existing ordinance was because why?
Accessory structure in the front yard in addition to, there's provisions in the zoning ordinance for what type of accessory structures or temporary accessory structures are allowed in a tent for a commercial business is not one of those. Predominantly is a construction sales trailer of 300 square feet. And that is my 300 square.
Correct.
So in order for that, what was previous, and I know that occurred under prior ownership, we're all well aware of that. So that, I'll call it for our purposes, not in compliance with our ordinance at any time. In order for that to occur, the proposed change would have to be made to the ordinance. Okay, and we've had some proper language from the applicant, but also from staff. So I've kind of focused on what staff was proposing, which was on, and we got something handed out today, and I haven't really had a chance to study that, which I think may have cleaned up some things, but packet page 17 was staff proposal. Let's start, first of all, do we have questions for the applicant about his specific proposal that's bringing this about, which is just to get the ordinance changed to allow this? Do we have any questions for our applicant while he's at the podium? Ms. Burzak?
So the previous location that we've all seen the tent in, is that approximately where the new tent would also be located?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's the only question I had.
Any other questions?
Are you aware of, typically the right of way is 33 feet and that current pad is outside of that right of way if it's 33 feet, but I'm not sure how to tell if the right of way on Hilltop would be bigger or not. I don't know if you understand my question.
So if it is a 33 feet away from the road itself, is that what it is?
It's, right now it's more than 33 feet,
Correct.
but I'm not sure if the Hilltop Road right of way is 33 feet or if it could be more.
How's that with one? We did look at the setback.
I'm not thinking about the
Well, I mean,
setback.
the right of way.
Okay,
We looked
so-
at the right of way. We're pulling it up on Beacon right now. 30, what's your address?
3029.
The parcel, I'm looking at Beacon right now, his parcel goes to the center line of Hilltop.
Mm.
From the backside of the curb to the closest point of the existing concrete pad where the tent used to be is about 25 feet. So typically your sidewalk, in most locations, your sidewalk is within the public right of way and it's usually a foot off the lot. So, you know, he's approximately 20-25 feet from the sidewalk. Is that how he's more than your 33 feet?
Yeah, I understand that he certainly meets the 33-foot right of way if it's 33 feet. I just don't know what the right of way is for Hilltop, if it could be possibly more.
I would say it's a 66-foot right away approximately.
But that's total. When I say right of way, I mean like from center of road left, center of road right. So
Center of the road, or with, and ran into this, the road, to the backside of the sidewalk on their property is about 32 feet.
thank you. That answers my question.
And then there's another about 25 feet into the edge of the.
Thank
So-
you.
Other questions for our applicant?
So I
Burzak?
have a question. I don't know if it's for the applicant or staff, but then a temporary tent structure in a front yard where you have two front yards. What's the setback distance it has to be from that right of way line? In
In the
that
C
location.
district, the front setback is 15.
So 15 feet off both right of ways, the, okay, Lake Shore right of way and the Hilltop. Okay, thank you.
I have
Mr. Miller?
I have a question for Mr. Patel.
Yep.
So you had your application and the city provided us some, an alternative option.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with the language that the city drafted as that alternative?
I believe so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for our applicant? Okay, we'll let you sit down and relax for a minute. We'll see if we have questions for staff or any other public comment. Thank you, Mr. Patel. Questions, discussion from planning commissioners, either for staff or in general, or we hear from Ms. Burzak.
I have a question for staff. So as you recall, when we were talking about parking previously, we mentioned that, you know, the new, it seems like a lot of businesses are wanting to add outdoor additional space, which then means that you can have more occupants on site. And so the one thing I circled was, would the parking take into account the additional square footage of this tent facility and require additional spaces based on the occupancy of the tent?
It will, and I think the applicant is working with the adjacent property owner to do a shared parking agreement.
Okay, so if we accept this though for other, so that anyone that wants to put a tent up has the criteria, will it clearly state that for these additional outdoor entertainment spaces, the parking spaces will follow, you know, whatever percentage of square footage we deemed previously, if we did, for
Yeah, number
outdoor
7.
entertainment?
Number 7. From number 7, so you must be, like,
Yeah, so, but what I want to know is, did our parking requirements end up including that? Because I know it was suggested, but
outdoor seating, for this one, I would use the one space for every 100 square feet.
the outdoor seating one.
Rather than the 4 per 1,000, or just if you had an outdoor.
I would agree with that.
So maybe, maybe it would be advantageous, rather than saying following that ordinance, to actually say which part of that ordinance it would follow. So that in the future, it's easy for
Specifically.
someone to understand that it's outdoor seating versus,
I
The
would-
other.
I would agree with that. Mr. Patel, what is the square footage of the tent as we have known it?
40 by
40 by 80.
So 3,200.
3,200.
Okay, so this proposed language is the maximum size is 3,000, so he's out of compliance.
I think it's listed.
I'm sorry?
3,000 is right.
Okay, so so he would be at, for those of us that like to see things in our head, the structure that's been there forever, it would be the maximum size allowed under this proposed ordinance. Okay, so I'm just thinking, obviously, we always think citywide, so that this would apply anywhere where all the other requirements are met, so that's why I was curious about the size of yours. Staff confirms that's 3,000 square feet?
The concrete pad is about 65 by 50, about 3,200 square feet.
Okay, so it's larger than this ordinance would propose.
But he might have added extra, if I can speak for him, you know, to have space for your prep work or your storage of food coming in, because at one point I recall there was like getting to be like another smaller tent and another smaller tent. This allows one tent.
So would it be advantageous if this is the size tent that's needed to increase to 3,200? What we're allowing, or because it would seem like then he's still non-conform if he's outside that number.
But I asked that question because now you're getting really large. And so you should be thinking not just that lot, because that works there because of the configuration nature of the lot, but this applies citywide.
Well, except any lot that would apply for this would then have to follow the setbacks for the district they're in. So that's going to, in essence, limit the size they're allowed to put up. So if you have a smaller lot and you have the setbacks that are required, it will then in itself regulate what you can build or place there, I guess is a better word.
Anyone have any concerns regarding the timelines?
I feel that 6 months feels like, or 180 days feels like a long time. It seems a little more permanent than temporary.
So the tent at the inn,
Yeah.
I assume that that's allowed because that's a PUD?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I
It is
couldn't hear
part
that.
of that process.
Mhm.
There are license agreements associated with that property, as part of the development that addresses that. I don't recall if there's a time built into that and these homes are. I don't know how much time is allowed under that, but that is a different situation. Licenses that come on.
Couple others that jump out at me are the tents that the Congregational Church puts up when they have music events. There's multiple tents, they're long, for a long period of time. They put them up Thursday afternoon or Friday morning and they take them down Saturday if they can get the Boy Scouts. And then the Sandbar, when they have their outdoor music.
Which is all summer long, right? Don't they?
Yeah,
Special.
No, they only get so many days.
Okay.
Over the course of this summer.
and then my other question is, because this accessory structure is in a front yard, is he not gonna need a variance even if this gets passed? And then if that's the case, the Sandbar and the Congregational Church can't do what they're doing either because they're both in front yards.
Mhm.
So on number 5, because this, the draft language is in section in Article 3, there's special regulations for temporary structures. So number 5 says it just needs to meet the required setbacks and separations, so we would allow it in the front yard. As long as it met building setback, lot coverage, and clear vision areas.
Okay.
other questions?
I just have comments. So I don't have an issue with 6 months, being that, this area is trying to become, a destination for weddings and other types of events and, I think it's a hardship for someone to put it up in April and have to take it down and then put it back up and whatever else, or only be allowed, a few months. Because there are people getting married when there's nice weather toward the end of April, all the way into October, where there's still nice weather. And so I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with it being in the front yard, knowing that it's in a commercial space. So that hopefully, it's not where it's in an area where you're going to have conflicts with residential users nearby. So I would not be opposed to this at all. I just still question if he's at 3,200 square feet and
Yeah,
we're only approving
that holds me up
3,000
too.
that we
We,
aren't.
I don't know why we don't know what the exact measurement of his, if it's 3,200, he's out of luck under this ordinance,
Oh,
so.
so we're just basic. Well,
You usually when they put the tents on entire concrete patch. But again, if we want to, we could change it to 3,200 just to be on.
Well,
safe side.
Well, the structure, is the structure, the tent? Or does structure include the concrete it's sitting on?
I would say no.
No, what?
Concrete is a pad,
mhm.
okay?
Okay, so if the tent is at 3,000, he's got a 200 square feet overhang somewhere, and then this accommodates, I mean, I guess that, as opposed to tailoring the ordinance to one specific agenda item, 3,000 was what was recommended, and if that's how it's measured, and, like I said,
And we talked about that because the concrete pad in itself doesn't go to lot coverage
Mhm.
okay.
and,
So then, just for clarity, so if there's additional concrete to set other things on, they can be set there, but not on anything that is vertical. Right? So if there's additional concrete that was put out there because additional room was needed for whatever else, bar stuff or whatever, food prep, whatever. So you cannot put then another canopy.
No.
So that's why I guess I keep asking, why was the additional concrete needed? Are there secondary tents currently up or only the one tent, but then the concrete just has things sitting on it on the surface? Is that how I'm?
There is no tent structure as of now. We haven't decided. It's just a concrete block which we're gonna use it. And when we design the tent, it will be.
Okay,
Okay,
The
let's just do
additional
that.
space we will
That's-
just, put
Okay.
some-
all right.
Mr.
I have a-
Urick,
So I just want to make sure we're consistent here. If we look at package page 14, paragraph 315.1, it says that the structure shall not be there for more than 12 months. And then in the proposed addition, under A, paragraph A, say 180 days.
Mhm.
Shouldn't
Well,
they be consistent, or
I
what am
think-
I
I
misunderstanding?
think that's a
here?
separate animal. I read 15.1 to be different than 15.2.
It's
But maybe I may
15.4.
be
No, 15.4. 15.4 and 15.1. I want those two to be consistent. Should they be consistent?
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
existing language.
The top one is
Top.
what's there now.
Cause there's only
Well, this is
300.
going to be completely changed.
See,
Yeah. and
this
that's-
is what
that's his
our current
application.
ordinance is, this
I
is
got
what
it.
we're
Okay.
proposing to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from planning commissioners for the applicant or for staff?
Do we think it's important to have removal language? That's just a general question, not,
Or in enforcement timeline as well as enforcement?
correct. If we don't think that it's particularly a concern, I'm okay, but I just wanted to address.
So what happens here if it's day 185? I think is what you're asking, and it's not down.
Correct.
The code enforcement person will go out and ask, when are you taking it down, because you've met your 30 days. typically, you know, were helpful to a point, but if it says another month, then we have to start.
So we have
There's
mechanisms already in place to address that. Thank you. That answers my question.
Any other questions from planning commission for the applicant or for staff? Any member of the public wish to be heard on this application? Seeing none?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that when you were asking about 315.1, that's not going away. 315.2 is being added to it. So 315.1 talks about structures that are only 300 square feet. That would be like a construction trailer, something like that.
Thank you. Okay,
That can be 3 months.
Well,
These
Right.
larger ones. are
Understood.
just Temporary.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay. And, okay. So can we, the language that we're talking about changing, can we change, line item 7 to include the additional comments about parking, and which portion that would be allocated toward what they'd have to follow?
The outside
Yeah,
recreational
that
is
you're
what we
gonna
were,
follow, that in accordance with, if you just say Article 18, that's not clear which part of Article 18 you'd be
or
following.
shall be governed by section
Yes,
whatever, whatever,
exactly.
whatever. Parking shall be governed by, and then the specific,
So you're considering this outside? To me, outside, they don't appear outside without pencil.
No, so what we're talking about is that you need to have parking to accommodate the additional occupants. And Kristen recommended using the section in our ordinance on parking related to, what did you call it, Kristen? Where is it in there? Outdoor?
Under food establishments, I have
Under-
two things written for. First one, it reads 1 space for every 100 square feet of building space plus 1 space for every 200 square feet of designated outdoor food and drink seating areas. I wouldn't say that's an outdoor seating area. I would say it's a space.
So would you do it per 100 square feet then? Parking per 100, and maybe, yeah,
Well, then
maybe
put-
reference that
reference
section.
that and or put it in the, put it in the ordinance.
Exactly.
Either way works for me. It's clear what the
Yes.
parking requirement will be.
Yeah, it needs to be clear so that everyone knows what they need to count.
I close public hearing.
No. You did.
Any other comments? No, you were the last. Any other comments? Close the public hearing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, then what is your pleasure? In terms of.
I'd like to make a motion
Mr.
to
Yurk.
approve, move to recommend approval of the proposed amendment to Article 3, General Provisions, Section 3.15, Temporary Buildings and Structures to establish regulations associated with seasonal temporary structures in the C Commercial Business District in the zoning ordinance of the city of St. Joseph, Michigan, based on the factors set forth under Section 22.3 of the zoning ordinance.
Is that intended to incorporate the, if you allow a question, intended to incorporate modification of number 7 as proposed to include the specific parking requirements?
I do, to include the parking to specify which section of the parking regulation that it applies to.
I have a motion from Mr. Yurk. Do I have support for his motion? Ms. Burzak supports the motion. Now, is there further discussion on the motion?
Do we need to specify that it's per the staff's alternative language, not specifically as proposed in the application?
As proposed by staff on the packet for today's meeting? Would you be amenable to such an amendment, Mr. Yurk?
Yes.
Ms. Burzak, your support as well?
Yes.
Any other discussion on the amended motion? Clerk may call the roll.
Mr. Eager.
Yes.
Burzak.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich.
Yes.
Ms. Rice.
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Chair Barfield.
Yes. When will this go to the city commission? I'm sorry?
January 12th.
January 12th. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, old business. We're losing Mr. Miller. Thank you for making time for us today. We appreciate that. Your tight schedule today. Housing choices, supply options, discussion number 2. We began this, as you know, last month. Got a start. We came to some points of consensus, but we also had some questions and suggestions, and some of that's been provided to us here today, and this is here for continued discussion and thoughts and suggestions and questions about any or all the materials that were provided. Update us on the survey as it's being drafted, and not sure where we're at on that. Some of those questions were pretty good, and open to suggestions from others of things that should be added to that. I appreciated the survey of surrounding areas, and doesn't look like this is necessarily particularly high-powered driven force, other places as well, but which I found kind of interesting. So what are thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? What do you think? I'm sorry, yes.
It might be a good time to throw this out because of the staffing changes. There will be some temporary help for a while from a consulting firm stepping in once Kristen is gone and until the replacement's hired. Job description's been formulated, hopefully will be out for advertisement tomorrow, will be out for several weeks. Interview process, so there's going to be some delay before somebody new full-time comes on. And given our resources, the city manager would like the planning commission to focus on citizen business and things that are not citizen business, to the extent that there's support from staff and from consulting to address it, then we could bring that forward, but otherwise it would probably be some delay before we can get back to that in equal fashion, but you can certainly talk about it today. I just wanted to make everyone aware that along with anything else that's not really critical.
Well, actually, I think that makes a lot of sense. As I say, I didn't even need the survey results to know that I didn't feel that this was necessarily an urgent pushing matter that we had to just jump on. We're always willing to do the job, and citizen businesses, as always, takes priority with us. So I'm all right with that. Anybody else have any issue with that? We're gonna have a little bit of a transition period here, and we're all on board with helping staff and focusing on where I know all about being shorthanded. So you got to put your resources where the maximum benefit comes. So, but that doesn't mean if there's some thoughts for today based on the initial material that was gathered to share with staff, or thoughts of additional questions you might like asked on that survey. I realize it may be a little delayed getting that out, but they'll take the input, or anything you found interesting in any of the ordinances that were provided from elsewhere that you particularly liked, didn't like, don't want to see. We certainly can make note of that for the record. Ms. Burzak.
So regarding the survey, I think it might be important, in the survey questions, it says which best describes the building you live in, the type of building, but, I didn't see anywhere where it actually says what it would be your neighborhood, or are you comfortable providing, you don't have to give an exact address, but, because I do feel that there will be some people that will be very positive toward having them in their neighborhood and other people that won't. And so it would be beneficial if this is the purpose, because we may point blank say, okay, they can't be in certain areas, but other areas, sure. So I think it would be good to somehow get a consensus of a neighborhood district, and however you feel is best appropriate to do that. I did find it, some of them that went up to 1,200 square feet, I thought, wow, that's a house, you're adding a house in your backyard. And 2 bedrooms, because I guess I was thinking of it more like a studio apartment. like you'd have, you know, a kitchenette and a bathroom and, you know, a stacked laundry and a place to sleep kind of thing, you know, so, so looking at the different ones, I mean, there are a lot of, seemed to me like a lot of variations. I'm still kind of hung up in the survey. It does say that we, and I circled this too, on the packet page 41, you know, it talks a little bit about it in the second paragraph, and it says that, it was concluded that recommended language changes would prohibit the use of the ADU for short-term rental, stay of less than 1 month. I would feel more comfortable because I thought all of us said that people are really good at getting around the short-term rental by renting for 30 days, but then, you know, change it. I would think that wording it in a way that says that because there is a, you know, middle housing shortage, that the intended use for ADU is either for additional living space for family members or for a rental that extends beyond a 30-day period or something of that nature, saying, you know, like, I mean, we even threw out like a 6-month period, because I do feel that there will be people that will see this as a way that where right now, maybe you can't add a dwelling space above your detached garage, because of the situation with zoning, that will want to incorporate an ADU, you know, for either the 30-day rental or other types of things that then really doesn't benefit the middle housing need in the community. So, you know, if we're fine with everyone building these for just getting more coverage on their lot, then that's one thing. But if we really truly are doing this because we're trying to support middle housing, then we need to really try to make it clear that that's what this is for, not for.
I don't know what you mean by middle housing.
Well, so the need for, so there's, the whole way this kind of came about was the commissioners were discussing that the shortage of that type of housing, and that they felt that the ADUs might be a way to benefit that additional housing product that is not currently out there. So I guess what I'm saying is, that if it's so loosey-goosey in the way we present it, that everyone thinks, wow, I can add an addition on my house, and, you know, I can build above my garage, you know, and all of this, but it's not really helping the situation that was the reason this came forth, then we're not really benefiting anything.
Yeah, and following up on that point, then, one of the things I look for possible survey topics, I'd be interested in knowing if the citizens differentiate, as I kind of do in my head, standalone versus in case within the resident versus already on expanding an existing structure. Do citizens see a difference between that, putting an apartment on an existing garage or a standalone independent structure in the backyard of your neighbor, or their own home? I'd be interested to know if there's a differential, people feel differently of all the types, or listing all the types, which would you support or which would you be
Yeah.
comfortable with? I also would be interested in knowing if you had, what would your primary use purpose in having one be?
Mhm.
Would it really be for family? I'm not sure this. I'm not 100% convinced this is done to address, I think what you're trying to say is affordable housing. I'm not sure any affordable housing. Okay, permanent versus short-term versus family versus, I'm interested in why we think our citizens might want to do this. And I think that's kind of relevant. I don't know whether we have a lot of folks that will be building for a family member and a parent, an adult child who still, or if they're doing it for the purposes of rental to
Yeah.
a separate family unit and for the purpose of maximizing their investment. I honestly would be interested in knowing why people would
Yeah,
think they might do.
Packet page 43 has, kind of the second, if desired, why would you add
Yeah,
an
that's
ADU?
true.
But I think we can expound upon that and really get maybe.
That's true. I had forgotten that. That was, because I was
Yeah,
thinking
but
about
I
that
think
when you were
it could
talking.
be, I think it could be expounded upon to really get a better feel for it. And again, I really think the neighborhood's important because, I think that in itself, and
The other thing that and Kathy, that you made me think of this just now, so I don't want to lose the thought. The other thing is when, even before the survey, I would assume, Kristen, you correct me if I'm wrong, Trudy, those of you that have been here a long time, we have had contact from a number of what I'll loosely call neighborhood associations. There are several of them in the city. And they, we see that when various topics come up. Do we have some listing of that or some formal listing of that? I know that
There's a formal listing, like on the website, how to contact different groups. I know at one time the manager's office had some contact information to. reach
I can
out
think
to
of 3 or
people.
4 in my head. There's nothing wrong. I mean, it's fine. They've got neighborhood associations and they've come in at various times. What I would like to do even before the survey, would it be possible to the extent that we have a formal, either a name, a chairman, an address, or someplace, a PO box or something for these groups, just to some kind of a nice letter notifying them that this topic is under discussion currently. And we're contacting, a survey is coming, but we would like your association to know that this, and please, any input, get it to the city commission, get it to planning commission, let City Hall know and be aware that a survey will be coming, just to get the word out as we, frankly, hit snowbird season. We're gonna lose some folks for a while, and maybe we aren't quite as accelerated as we thought we were going to be, but still, we want to stay up on these things. So if that's doable, there's several, Kathy, I know 1 or 2 in your neighborhood. I know there's some north of town. There probably are some in other neighborhoods. There's not one that I'm aware of in my neighborhood, but there probably are some around, like Boulevard, maybe, I don't know.
There is one on ours. Yeah.
Okay, to the extent we know, and if any folks here, if you know of them, get the city, that if they do a newsletter or something like that, and maybe we can get the word out there, because I'm interested in hearing how folks feel about this from, as I said last time, all across the city. It'll be interesting to see, and what thoughts they have about how they would see it being used, and what their proposed usage would be, what purpose would they have for doing that. So I find that pretty interesting. So go ahead, Mr.
I think we need to go back to the original premise as to whether or not this solves the problem that is what they're saying they would like to address, which is to have more affordable housing. This survey that you conducted with the local cities, if you add them all up, there might be 100. And that's from 2016. I mean, there's just not many of these.
Right.
So we're going to be spinning our wheels on this. I think we push back and say, is this really going to solve anything? Why are we doing this?
I think it's gonna solve.
Or just why don't we state the real reason to do it? Because it's not going to solve a housing problem in this city.
Well, and maybe once the survey goes out, we can better ascertain what it does solve, because I do think there are a lot of people that want to put additions on their home for their family and expand their living situation, but they can't do it based on some of the current ordinances. So is that what we're trying to achieve? Or again, so that I think there will be people that will fill this out wanting it because they're gonna make it bigger because it's gonna benefit their family situation. So if
why don't we get that
if
clarity
there was a
then?
question that said you could only have one of these if you used it for a rental or middle housing, that might change the outcome of the survey. And I don't know if that's what we're intending. I'm still like juggling, like trying to understand, because Mr. Ebert's comments last month, it's really sad to see all these vacant buildings that could really solve some issues, but they can't be used. But then we're gonna, load people's backyards and make parking more of a nightmare in congested areas already to try to get 100 more units somewhere, and you've got all these buildings that there could be a lot of, I think that was a really spot on, on his part to mention that, and that, that seems to be like, if that truly is what we're looking for, that should be our focus of changing so that we allow that. But
I also think you have to remember that there is a difference between affordable and available.
Right.
They are not the same thing.
no,
And sometimes our message has been, we need more available
Yeah,
housing.
I don't,
But just because something's available doesn't make it affordable. If you put a lovely garage apartment, like
Right.
I'll use the Dottie's case, that's a beautiful apartment. But you put that down on certain Ridgeway or on Lake Boulevard with a lake view, I'm gonna suggest to you that that apartment will not necessarily be affordable.
right, and I don't think the
And I
word
couldn't blame the owner
affordable
for
is
getting
what they're
top
going
price.
for here. It's middle housing that doesn't necessarily mean low income or anything like that. It just means that housing for people that want to be in the city close to, like ADUs are really meant to be where people can walk. You know, walkability and a community that allows for all of that. And so not necessarily that it's really inexpensive housing, but that it's desired housing in an area that you want to be in, but there's nothing available. That's how I would sum it up versus trying to, because I remember there was actually a person that came before us that then complained that we kept saying the word affordable when we shouldn't have been.
Mm.
So
It's a valid argument to make.
it is, yeah,
There's nothing wrong with available either, but just, we should
Right.
be clear on what.
Yeah.
What the goal is.
Yes.
When we start implementing how we're gonna get to the goal. I think that's
So
fair.
how do we get this clarity? Who gives us this direction? This came from city council. Okay, can we ask them to give us some clarity?
Well-
If the true,
They may already know. I mean, maybe it was just, when this was discussed in the commission and was first sent to us. Did you feel, those of you that were at the meeting, I was not, did you feel it was just, we need units available? Or do you feel it was was the intent some concept of affordable, whatever that means? And that's pretty nebulous, but how was the context at the city commission?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, how was the research? Yeah. It just revolved around the housing.
Just to-
Yeah, I think it's,
I think it's the missing middle.
I think, yeah.
It's the missing middle. It's not necessarily low income or affordable. It's that people are desiring to be in a walkable community and they want to be close to that walkable community, but there isn't availability for them. And so it's providing that additional option.
Was walkability part of the discussion? Because I start thinking like, is walkability affected? Does that on Thayer, Willa and Morton?
If walkability is not part of it, I think it's just getting extra housing.
Availability, sourcing. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Anybody else have thoughts for general discussion, the survey, something that jumps up that says we better tackle something now, Mr. Everett? You look like you want to say something.
To Mr. Yurik's point, you look at the communities that have this and you look at the number of units.
It's not.
And you look at that through our community. And I think without other changes to our ordinance, regardless of the ADU language that we were to pass, if we so chose, we're going to be in the same boat as these communities. If the desire is to really drive these, I think you've got to reduce setbacks in some variety so that you have buildable square footage in order to do this. I mean, you look at the number of small or R1, C, D, and E areas are tiny lots. Even our large lots, when you take a 30-foot rear yard setback and you look at the diagram of how these are, what types of structures these might be, there's 6 of them listed, 2 of them within an existing structure. So 4 of those options, you need land to build. And with our current setbacks, I think we're highly limited on how many of these we would get. So if the goal is to really get more housing, I think it's a bigger picture issue than simply passing an ADU language.
When-
Coverage would be the same consideration.
Yep.
Most
Yeah.
lots are already close to the maximum.
When I read it, I assumed in this community, in certain areas, it would be limited to an addition above a garage. Because of, you know, all the factors and then.
Yeah, then you look at the number of garages that we have that are non-conforming and all of a
Exactly.
sudden they can't have them either.
So, but again, so that might, you know, so, you know, current regulations in the state are that it's a necessity to have a garage, so therefore you don't have to build up, right? You can build within the building setback for a garage because it's a necessity. So if we're going to allow an ADU, then we'd have to say, and you can have an ADU above the garage within that same setback. And then we all need to think about what that's gonna look like.
That's why I brought up garages last time, because that is the most feasible option. But
Yes.
Garages, as they stand, are not constructed for dwelling units. They don't have a foundation. They don't have firewalls that meet the
Mhm.
setbacks. There would be tremendous transition to a consistent garage.
I have one, but very, there would be very few. My family has a home structurally that could do it, but there are very, very few, I think. I don't know about new construction, but there are very few of the mid-centuries and those that would have that kind of
Mhm.
structure. Other thoughts or comments for staff? Obviously, we'll stay on this, but we understand that we might have a more measured pace. But was there anything else in your materials that kind of leaped out at you that you wanted to bring up or be heard on or have staff take a look at?
I guess I'm curious, when you think this survey, is it going to be paused also as far as going out or
Probably a little bit.
a few months or?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
The goal is to get somebody on board as quickly.
Okay. Cause it would be like, I would personally feel better if we could see it again before it goes out. For sure.
Yeah, and I think we just want to honor the original direction to us came with some clear direction from the city commission to get on this, and we understood that. But we also, circumstances are different now. So with that, as long as the city commission understands this and clearly this came from Ms. Hackworth and they understand it. So I'm all right with that. We can take our time, we can look at that and we can, again, as far, it doesn't stop anyone from contacting staff. You get an idea, you see an article, you come up with something, get it to staff and it will be considered. But I think that the pacing on it is acceptable under the circumstances. So I'm all right with that. Are there anything else? Any other commissioner comments? Any other, oh, we're losing our public. We're down to, we got one public. Any other public comments?
So I agree with everything that you guys have said, Kathy's comments about missing middle, talked about that the last time. And I think in the survey, having something specifically for, you know, expressing the purpose of the survey, that the purpose of the ADUs is for missing middle, that there might be some confines based on income as well. So people aren't just gonna be putting up, you know, these elitist carriage houses thinking they're gonna get an ADU. And then the rent was so high that, you know, this is the middle again. So, you know, people, you mentioned that, you know, residents could think that they're gonna be making money and, you know.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that it would be if you're the property owner, that would be perfectly understandable.
Right, but it's gonna miss the middle.
Right.
If it's, you know, an elitist, carriage house.
Okay, well, I react badly to the word elitist, but that's just me. I don't think it's just people own their property. They have a right to do certain things with their property and, you know, I think you can make a general argument. And I'll try and put this as generic as possible. You can make a general argument. There are a lot of people in this middle that I guess that's kind of is that a new term of art or something? Okay, well, we don't use that where I come from. Okay, so then but that should be defined too. Don't throw that in a survey and then not define it. Okay, because not all of us are as up to that, but here's what I know. You can make an argument and people do. In my world, I see it quite a bit. That there, because of very good reasons and very good fortune, you're just never really going to have too much of a middle in the city of St. Joe, and for the best of reasons. Big Pond over there being number one. I know folks that live in the city that, and I've had this conversation, myself included. I'm not sure if I came here today that I could afford to buy in the city of St. John.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm pretty doggone sure of it. So, and that's unfortunate, but by the same token, when people lay out a huge investment for their property and then you tell me you can have one of these, but you can't charge more than this for the rent. I feel some constitutional issues bristling up the back of my head there, to property owners. It's where I kind of get a little conservative on, telling me what I can do with my property. I see what you're saying. That's why that's important, to define why are we doing this? If we're just doing it because property owners independently have a right to do something like that on their property, and if that includes making money or building their retirement income because they can rent an apartment over their garage, because they're the ones that put up the money to have the house and their garage, and if they're fronting the cost of the construction, they're entitled to make the most they can. I mean, that's the somebody would argue that's the American way. If it's the other, then clear definition and our discussion of what do we think we should be telling the city to do? Should it be for that purpose? Should it be Nellie bar the door? You're the property owner. You meet all the restrictions and code things that we want to impose on these. You can charge whatever you can get for your property. It's pretty cogent argument to take too. So I think those are all part of what we should be discussing and can be part of the survey. And that's in wording so that we get true feelings on what people, I just have a hard time believing that a significant number of property owners, if they're going to put this kind of an investment in, are going to want to have any limitation on the money they can make on their property.
Yeah, and that might be a moot point by that, but the objective, I agree, was to try to hit the middle. And at the ADU effort is a moot point, because of what you just said.
Yeah.
As far as making money.
I don't know that.
No sense in addressing.
Well, yeah, and that to Mr. Everett's point, at some point, but again, now an ADU, as I say, on Lake Boulevard, and an ADU on the corner of Will and Thornton,
Yeah.
the one over there, one could argue, Will and Thornton might be middle. Okay?
I guess I'd like to do more research on missing middle. My interpretation of it was really not driven at all around like the cost. It was that people that do not desire to have a single family residential property that they have maintenance on, or they want to be in certain desirable areas. Now, I use the term walkability, but it does say that ADUs, they want to be in populated areas that there's a lot going on and different things like that. And so when I was thinking of missing middle, it's like the, more of the duplex cottages, those type of things that you don't then do maintenance on. You're a tenant and, but you're a tenant, but you're not in an apartment building. You're in an environment that is somewhat between a single family home and a duplex or something of that. That's how I envision them. So I guess I'm gonna, before next month, try to wrap my head around what in my head I think missing middle is. And I never thought it really meant low income. I thought that was something different.
There are income statistics that are available.
Yeah, and that's basically,
For average income.
Sure.
And you can find where the missing middle is in your own area.
Sure.
Or city.
yeah.
It's not my understanding that this is geared towards the missing middle. I think this is something that we're focusing on more here tonight. I think the commission is also focused on cornerstone market analysis that shows the shortage of housing overall. That doesn't address the income level. That
At all.
addresses units.
Available, not affordable. Yeah,
Yes.
that's why I raised that point earlier. On a closing note, before we clean up with the other staff and business, Mr. Everett, as he always does, said something very fascinating at the end of last meeting, or maybe it was on the way out the door. And he just said, if I may, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but something to the effect that, we're talking about housing and we tossed it over to the bank building and said, like, couldn't have apartments on. And I thought about that we can't, I said, well, why don't we do that? And you said, we can't do that. The reason you can't put apartments and or / condos in the
Bank.
building is why? Remind me of the reason why they couldn't put condos on floor 2, 3, or 4 in that building, or apartments.
It's not allowed in the commercial office district.
Permitted or special use?
On the first floor, could we put
They
them?
have to provide parking for their people.
Okay, but it would be allowed, would it be allowed on floor 2, 3, or 4?
It can't occupy more than a certain, what, 60, I believe it's 67% of the building. So. you know,
All right, so if we left whatever's on the first floor and then the Yellow Jacket place, Realtor place, and that's kicked out the FBI because it's what we do. I don't know if that leaves 1 or 2 floors, but theoretically, if that didn't exceed that, that could, at the end of the day, somehow be residential.
Currently.
There's also a way that, from what little research I've done, but those buildings over there, there's an agreement with parking because they don't have to provide parking or they have to provide some parking for commercial uses, I believe. So, and that's how they got.
And they're not downtown,
Well,
part of the
they're not in
downtown.
district. So the D district would allow for the first 6 units.
Yeah.
To be converted without requiring.
Exactly. Hence Truce Brothers' old building. There's no park, and the Rhymes building. There's no parking required. There never were. So that made me think. I started thinking about, why couldn't we do something like that? And well, I'm just saying, just.
That's why I have Cedar.
Yeah.
I always come back to Cedarwood. We're gonna have Cedarwood someday. All right, what's the cutoff for our January meeting? We already have one item we know is coming. What's our cutoff? Okay, anything in the wind?
I believe there'll be a public hearing for parcel development in Chapin Boulevard.
Is that the only thing so far?
All right, anything from commissioners?
I just make a couple of comments.
Just for a sec.
So I would just like to say that Kristen, you're gonna be missed. Appreciate the last 10 years. And I feel that personally that you've helped me professionally. All of you have when I'm working on something and all of this yard setback and all that stuff. I've asked numerous times for clarifications on things and have always appreciated the quick response from staff. And we don't always agree on everything, but you know, it's always when it's stated and clarified, it's nice to feel that you're always willing to help. And I think also from a standpoint of being a planning commissioner that you've really made us all look good with the packets and everything. And I think we're frankly spoiled. And so whoever your replacement is will have big shoes to fill. That's what I have to say. And thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
again.
Ms.
Here,
Yep.
I agree.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. We all echo those sentiments. So,
Yep.
and make sure those are in the minutes, if you would, please.
Please,
All right, any other business to bring before the commission? If not, do I have a motion to
I'll
adjourn?
make a motion.
Ms. Burzak has a motion to adjourn. Do I have support for her motion? Ms. Rice supports the motion. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. We will see you in January. Have a wonderful holiday season, everybody.